Goodbye 2025 and welcome 2026. 2025 was the worst year of my life. I had gone through a lot of bad things happened to me. I lost somebody who was really close to me, who was loved one, and I lost my job, and I had an accident in that time. All of them just happened in the same time, simultaneously. When this is When it rains, it pours. It is totally true. When something bad happens to you, all of them happen at the same time. I do not know whether we're tested or punished, but it is what it is. All of them just happen once, and it is devastating. It's soul crushing. It is heartbreaking. Sometimes even it's unbearable. Hello everyone, if you're new here, I'm Hamid from English. If it is my day one or the first day of my 30 days speaking challenge. I started it like a few weeks ago, but I just recorded one session, and today I decided to do the next session to do the first day. And today I'm gonna talk about my hardships. As I promised you in previous videos, that I'm gonna talk about my hardships because I know this story and I'm gonna do this off the cuff. It's not just any speaking practice, actually. It is venting for me. It is getting all those negativity, all those hardships, all those bad memories out of my chest and share it. Maybe I will feel a bit better because I had gone through a lot. It was really devastating. It was soul crushing. And then I'm gonna get all of them out and keep them. It's in a spoken journal, and also I'm gonna leave them in 2025, and I'm gonna embrace 2026 with hope, with positivity, with courage. I recorded this video like a few days ago, but in that video I cried a lot, and then I forgot to put my microphone, so I deleted that video, and today I need to do it again. That day I was alone, my friend was not around, so I just talked openly, but today my friend is around, and I'm not gonna talk as open as in that video I did, so I will stay strong and I will not cry. I mean, there's nothing wrong with crying. A lot of people says that it's not acceptable. It's a taboo for men to cry, but in some occasion, it's unavoidable. I mean, there's nothing wrong with crying. You need to cry as much as you want in different occasions, especially when you lose somebody who is really close to you. Then that time, you should cry. Or when you're talking with God, you need to cry as much as you want. It doesn't matter. Just cry and talk. So today I'm not gonna cry, I hope, and I'm gonna walk you through my hardships which happened in this year in 2025. And the worst one was losing somebody. I know how hard it is when you lose somebody, when somebody who's really close to you. I lost my cousin. He was really close to me. We grew up together. We've been raised together. We were born in the same house. So it just happened in 29th of May 2025 in Kabul, Afghanistan. I'm gonna share a picture of my cousin to you. He was really young. He was just 26 and I was 25. And then we were born in the same house. We lived together like 7 years in the same house. My uncle and my father, they were living in the same house until when I turned 7, and that time we separated, but again, our home was close. It was next to each other. So we went to school together, and then we graduated from school, and then we were accepted in university. So in university, we were together too in the beginning, but sometimes we were separated. But in general, all the time, kind of like for 25 years, we have been together. We have been raised together. And then it was hard for me. You know, even it's unbelievable right now. I cannot believe that he's gone. He's not around. As still, when I think of my memory, I had a lot of memory in Kabul, in the village, especially in Kabul. Right now, I'm living. I had memories in every alley and every road we were walking together. When I go there, it breaks my heart. I cannot. I mean, it's soul crushing. It's devastating when I think of those moments, and I cannot eradicate. I cannot eliminate those thoughts from my mind too. It just come on, it just come in my mind, and it's uncontrollable. So I'm gonna start talking about this story. I know it's gonna be long, but just to give you a bit info about my cousin, he was in the best time of his life. You know, he studied engineering, and then he was engaged. He was young, and he was supposed to marry this time, like in this fall, he was supposed to marry, and he was engaged for 2 years. And he was working. He had two jobs in Kabul. When he had a shop, he was working there, and then he started working in a course. It was an English course, and he was the manager of advertisement and this kind of stuff. You know, a few months ago, I heard about that course that they went bankrupt, and then I heard that the boss or a co-founder of that course committed suicide because he went bankrupt and he was in debt. And then I went to their page and checked all their posts, and then and then I scrolled down, and then I reached to the point that they shared something about those time and my cousin died because he was a manager there, and then they held a ceremony about him, and then previously, like post before that, there was some advertisement. I think they were done by my cousin, and then when I was watching them, I couldn't stop crying, and I cried a lot that night. So it was 29th May 2025. It happened, and then a weeks ago it was Friday, and then I was invited to my aunt's house. So I went to his shop, and then I said to him, "We are invited to my aunt's house. Let's go there." And then in that day, he was busy in his shop. He was rearranging the shop. They were moving chair from one side to the other side, so they were busy. And then I said to him, "Let's go there." And then he said, "No, I am busy. I cannot go. So you go by yourself." So I cannot go. And then I went to my aunt's house. And then in that day, I was there. And then afternoon, I came back to his shop. And then he was not in his shop. I went to his room. When I went to his room, he was lying. He was sleeping. And then I didn't wake him up. I just came to my room. And then it became Tuesday, I think. Yeah. And then I was working at that time, so in that evening, I checked my WhatsApp, and then I checked the status, and then I saw a status posted by him, and then he posted a photo of him in hospital, bedridden, and then I called him, asked him that, "How are you? What's happening? What's going on?" And then he said, "Just, I'm practicing Photoshop. I photoshopped this image. I'm not sick. I am okay. Don't worry." And then I thought it is just a cold, or maybe, I don't know. it's not something serious. He might be okay. And then we just talked like a few minutes, and then he was okay. His voice was okay. And then that was the last call I had with him. And that was the last. That was the last conversation we had. And then it became Tuesday. Not Tuesday, actually Thursday. So on Thursday, I was working at that time in an institute. I was teaching there. And Thursday, I was in the class. I was teaching. I was recording, and then in that day, some of my students they went out, and then they were calling and then getting permission. So I just always put my phone in silent when I was in the class. So in that morning, I received a lot of call, like 20 or 30 call from my relative. They were calling, and then I didn't pick them up. I thought that it's my student. They're calling because they need permission. That's why I didn't pick them up. And then I was receiving a lot of call. And then finally I was first to pick up the call, and then I picked up, and it was one of my relative. And then he directly said to me that your cousin died, and he's in this hospital and in Kalina station in Kabul. You need to rush here in this hospital because we need somebody who is close to him, maybe uncle, parent, or maybe cousin. When I heard this news, I was kind of speechless. I had nothing to say. My student asked what happened. This is something they said condolence, this kind of stuff, but I couldn't say a word in that time. And then I barely could walk to the office just to get the permission. And then I went to office, I explained the things, and then I get the permission. And then I came back to my room, and then I decided to go to hospital. But one thing, I don't know, I have heard a lot of story, and it happened to me that in that morning I was not feeling okay. When I was going to work, I was commuting to work. I was riding a bike, and then when I went down, I saw a lot of accident happened. I felt like it's not a good day. Maybe when I saw other people getting accident, it's like, yeah, there was a thought in my mind, in the back of my mind, that I'm gonna have an accident too. That's what I thought in that day, but I didn't have any accident. And then it happened at this occasion, this incident, tragic incident happened. When I was coming back from the work, I was biking, and then in those road we had a lot of memory because his university and my university it was closed when we were living in hostel. So he was visiting us, I was visiting him, and we had a lot of memory in those road. And then I barely could bike and come to my room. And then one thing that was really hard for me was that I was the only man who was close to him in here. And then I thought, how in the world I'm gonna respond to his mom and dad. I came back to my room, and then I rented a car and I rushed to the hospital. And in that time, unfortunately, I lost my identification card too because they need somebody who was close to him, and he should have an identity card because they were moving the corpse to, I don't know, morgue or medical examiner office to investigate the death. And when I went there, I'm gonna share the story from his friend. He was living in a room in that station, and then there were three people in that place in that time. One of them was his friend, and he was university friend, and he was his partner in his business in that shop. And then they both lived for, I don't know, 6 years or 7 years together. And then the other guy there, he was the owner of that place. And then in that night, he went from Kabul to Ghazni. So just in the evening, he was in his room, but after evening, he went to Ghazni. So I'm gonna share this story a bit from his friend. When I went there, and then his friend was saying that, I mean, he was not sick. We have lived together for a long time. Just a few months, he went to Iran, and then in that time, I was not around him. But other time, we were always together. And then he was not sick. He was not going to hospital. He was not talking about it. And then his friend is saying too that in these past few months that they were living together, he was not sick. He didn't have any sickness, any disease. So it was Monday, and then in Monday he went to pool with some of his friend. I do not know what happened in there, but his friend is saying that they were kind of, I don't know, they sunk under the water, but that was he was saying. But he was okay, and then he went to pool in Monday, and then after Monday, I think in that day afternoon, he went to play futsal with his friend, and then when he came back to room in Tuesday, he was not feeling okay. He was under the weather. It was not so serious, but again, we went to hospital for checkup. When we went to hospital, and then I left him to hospital, I went to shop, and then when he came back to our room, or I don't know, to shop, he said that, they just injected me and then they prescribed me with some medicine, but I didn't take the medicine. It's not serious, so I'm not gonna take the medicine. And then it became Wednesday. So he was working like his entire time in that center as advertisement manager, and then in Wednesday he went to work. He was okay in that day. The whole day he spent in that center. And then it was Wednesday evening. And then his friend is saying that when I came back to shop to my room, it was, I think, 8 o'clock. And then when I came, he was sick. And then I asked him that let's go to hospital. And he said, no, I don't want to go to hospital. And then I said, did you eat anything? Are you going to eat something tonight? Do you want to eat something tonight? And then he said, no, I just ate bean in that center, so I'm not feeling like eating, so I don't need anything to eat. Just bring me some boiled or hot water. I just want to take a pill. And then he took a pill. I think it was Brufen, just a painkiller to mitigate, to reduce the pain a little bit. And then I said to him again, let's go to hospital. And then he said, no, I don't want to go to hospital. And then it became 11 o'clock. I think in 11 o'clock, I said to him, let's go to hospital. And then he snapped at me. He just said to me loudly that leave me alone. I do not want to go anywhere. And then his friend is saying that I fall asleep. And in the morning at 6 o'clock, when I woke up, I called him, and then he didn't answer. And then I rushed out and I picked all those blankets, and I saw that he was barely breathing. And then he said that I rushed out, and then I brought a car, and then we went to hospital. So I forgot to bring my identification card, some money, and then I came back and grabbed some money, and then I got some drug. But I was just in this going and coming that the doctor said to me that he's gone, he's finished, you don't need to do anything else. And then in that time, he didn't have any number from me, from his sister, from anybody around. And in that time, he saw another guy, and that guy, he described the situation with him, and then he said that I had a number, I think maybe a number of a guy who is the owner of a futsal hall. So you might call him. I think he's maybe familiar with him. That's what happened. And then they called him, one of our relatives, and then he became aware. And then all of them kind of became aware, and they all went to hospital in the morning. I think it was maybe 7 or 8 o'clock. So I was not aware of that situation until 10 o'clock. So I became aware at 10 o'clock, and then I went there. And then when our relative gathered there, they called Taliban, who is the first governing in Afghanistan right now. So they went there, they investigated his friend, the hospital, anything involved in this incident. And then when I went there, they needed me to allow to move the corpse to a place to examine whether it was a death or no, it was a murder, what happened. I went there, and then they just asked me, they got my info, and they moved the corpse from there to that place. And then I didn't go with them. I just went with Taliban to his room just to visit his room. And then there was some paperwork needed to get the corpse. And then in that day, I was busy doing this paperwork. And then at that time, my relative called to my father. My father is a teacher who was teaching in a school, and then he said that this incident happened, and it was a shock for him too. And then he rushed, he came from school back to our village, and then when he came back, he saw his brother, the father of my cousin, farming or watering the plant. So when he approached him and he said to him that your son in Kabul, he's sick and then he needs us. Let's go. I mean, let's go and talk. I don't know how he felt in that time because they just talked with him like the night before, and then he was okay. And then you're coming and saying this, how? It's not possible. And then they all gathered. I don't know what happened in the story. I do not know the full story, but I don't know how they told the news, especially to his mom. For a mother, it might be really hard. It's really hard for me right now that I cannot stop crying sometimes. I do not do it in public, but a lot of time I do crying. And for his mom, it's gonna be, I don't know, even unbearable. Still to this day, I always ask her, and then my mom and dad, my sister, they all are saying that his mom is always crying and he's not going anywhere. He's just staying in her home. I mean, she's just staying in her home and crying most of the time, especially when somebody visit her, or maybe there is some occasion like a wedding or maybe a funeral. In that time, it became fresh. And then not just her, all of our family, I don't know, they cry, it become fresh. It created a wound, a hole that it might not be healed, it might not be filled in any time soon. It is so hard. So I'm gonna talk about the rest of the story in another day. There's a lot in the story. His sister was living in Kabul too. I'm gonna leave it there, and I want you to, if you listened to this video up to the end, I want you to leave all the things, all negativity, all hardships, anything you had in 2025, leave them in 2025, and then embrace 2026 with hope, with courage, with happiness. The point of doing this is that I'm not into journaling. A lot of people says that you gotta write down whatever you're thinking, your emotion, your feeling, your frustration, whatever you're going through, you need to write them down in a notebook. But I'm not into that. That's why I decided to do this. It's gonna be a venting, it's gonna be a healing, and it's gonna be a speaking practice, and it's gonna be in spoken journal for me, and it's gonna be saved for your. That's why I did. Thank you. It's just in a speaking practice. If I made any mistake, or it doesn't matter. We're prone to mistakes. So if we make mistakes, it's totally okay. It's totally fine. If you listen to this video up to the end, let me know in the comment down below. I don't know. I'm not sure even one person will listen to this up to the end, but let's see if there is somebody who is listening to this video up to the end. Let me know in the comment down below. Thank you.